Welcome back to the Lindsay TVFilm Podcast, and I believe my sound should be working out here. Testing, yep. Should be good. Starts happening to stream here. Until I last checked back during the January stream. So it might do some fickling around before the next one. And speaking of that, I did already watch Encanto before. I was going to do something else with like Imaginarium, which was the film I did like 10 years ago now. That are about because of I think about a YouTuber called the Rye Guy. Heard of his stuff from him and all that. Don Furious drops. They're kind of into news. Don Brothers. I don't know if I wrote anything on Don Brothers yet. No, but I was thinking about it, but I forgot. But all in all, I'll just say right now is that it's interesting as it followed the Moment Ranger. I think that's what all crew has. It's interesting that it follows the Yellow Ranger, and like the Red Ranger basically does nothing except being a postman and then seeing him morph toward the end. We haven't even seen Blue and Black yet. But it's kind of when it's like the guy in charge is Inoue, and he did Jetman. That's how it works. Well, he had a trio, and then the two others came in later. But anyways, Don Fury dropped last week in the U.S. and in Spain right now. So that's why I haven't watched it yet. But yeah, probably gonna watch Turning Red soon. We'd like to watch Encanto again in Spanish since I'm in Spain, and that may be interesting to think about. But yeah. Also, as well as the Proud Family, that new series. I watched the original one back when I was a kid, But, there's very weird times, What's going on out there. It's kind of putting a lot of stress on me. I would really like to go and check out Denmark over spring break because there's a new roller coaster opening in Denmark called Phoenix. The whole theme park community has been really into that. But that's kind of covered the news. Maybe what's new, what's dropped. So to go, what's going on in this episode is going to be Garan Superhero Senki and Revice the Mystery plus Zenkaiger Rap and basically getting up to date on Revice. So it was kind of last minute. I wasn't sure I was going to do it in the end, but so I pulled it together last minute and. You can see you guys. I know that's very last minute. Just did that like 20 minutes ago, maybe. Probably less. Yeah, I thought for talking, kind of breaks up into two things. Since Zenkaiger was a part of Super Senki and the Revice spin-off was obviously part of Revice. Just one tap for a lot of stuff. One is it's kind of like we're about like late 90s and early mid 2000s. Sentai is at the narrators we get annoying saying the same thing over and over again after we heard like after like 2, 3, 4, 5 times we get it. But but since the whole film is about storytelling and the story of Studio Senki kind of makes sense that the narrator is around in the film reading, was usually not said. Like how a character moves in a scene or how a character reacts to something. And there's one story followed Journey to the West, and the other one, The Eight Dogs, which are like the two side stories with the returning Rangers. And, basically the returning cast that we heard about with, the Denliner crew, Sho and Raptor, Shiguru, Mike's counterpart from Shinkenger. Those people. And then you obviously had, and then all the red / leaders all show up at the end. Not big one though. Is all the Sentai Reds up until, Cure Major, but then it's all, the leads through through 0-1 at the time. And 0-1 obviously did return anyway. So and you have the young Toro in there, and basically since he's a brainchild of these franchises, he controls their beginning and end, which is leading to Asmodeus' plan. And since he doesn't like how our modern heroes look, he kind of quits and doesn't really want to deal with it anymore, which leads into World Without War and all that. It's interesting because like Peace Soldier, it just feels like they're just kind of like floating around like green screens and stuff. It's kind of weird, kind of interesting. And we don't get like a whole thing with all the heroes together. It's just here with the returning cast, and then both of our teams that are in the crossover, plus all their leading predecessors, or obviously a few of the Red Series, the only writer of that show. But I still only found it powerful and feature length, I believe, just about. I think with all the credits and stuff, it is under. And I kind of felt like bringing Don Momotaro in after the Kaiser arc kind of really feels kind of shoehorned in. It probably would have just been probably better to end the series like as we know it in February and like push all the endgame stuff up a month and have it end around Valentine's Day, and then have a weird 2 or 3 transition period, kind of like or the Super Sentai Strongest Battle that lead us into the series, kind of like, which is like, or like have Don Momotaro show up in the finale, and we already know that he's his stuff, and then the first episode could be remain as usual, as it did. But the spell with the brothers is not done after the SD World episode, but I think like basically once you get there, you can probably basically jump to the final 5 episodes, probably, because that doesn't do much to them. But when they do finally all reunite in the finale, it's all fixed, and they kind of transfer, more like Rangers into their little forms for battle. I remember from website Chittle said when they're promoting Face and Purple, there's just things you can do in animation that you can't do with live action. And like honestly, like Kijiro is very tall, and Unit Brother, he's very small. So I think Pink is a guy, but he's the shortest, and Black is obviously the tallest. And they made a whole thing with a god going on, and kind of just. So I think like obviously it was her whole plan all along, but still probably is maybe a little. There's still something that's not really like done perfectly right, but he was using Jeji and eventually Stacy, and eventually once they found out that Stacy's being possessed by it, they all agreed that they don't mind the god possessing them as long as he stops possessing Stacy. And basically ends up, and he actually ends up freeing Kaizukatopia without it being used for a monster, which is kind of interesting when when Zox and them find out. And then when the initial invasion, they're able to take out Ishuru, the scientist. So there was a bit where they started getting to figure out how to trust the guy, and he basically pulled the strings and pull out 3 final answers in the series. So I feel that ending really just didn't really. I think the ending didn't sit well as it did with felt really some cultural stuff going on, seeing the school episode, for example. I think it's a good one. It's more and it still feels the same basic plot, which is parodying the engine of the franchise. With you have a monster, they do something, guys attack, the Rangers have to both sides pull back for a while, go through some moral arc, come together, defeat the monster. Monster goes big, defeat the monster again, and then a quick tying of loose ends like a sitcom. Yeah, it's I probably would have been fine if you all been fine. This was probably been fine if 48 was the finale, and if there was something that was a cliffhanger, it would make sense to just throw it in and have it be something important within Dawn Brothers. Actually, some of the plots are better than others. As I was saying, with the cultural styles. So it's kind of and now I don't hate it as much as some people, but it definitely everything has its flaws, and maybe Zenkaiger probably despite having a quality, despite still being pretty good in the quality side, definitely probably still has its weaknesses more visible. And I think the fire-based form that Iki gets, it kind of reminded me of kind of knowing how double works, where the two halves need to be in sync in order for it to function properly in battle. And obviously, when the new gift hardens debut, that is put into question. And I think it makes looking at it, there's still a lot that happened. Normally you would feel that I would cover that in December, cut off at Christmas break, but things went a little bit further in terms of that initial arc into the new year. The old director was still in charge supposedly, but he was possessed by a very ugly guy as a dead man, and they can't let that still that far back in this list. Then Olteca is basically in charge now, and Julio leaves and is freed of his demon control, and Aguilera feels duped because she thought she was going to marry Gift, but since she had the pure heart, she was kind of become Gift's host, kind of how Arise used Precious or in Power Rangers Void King for her physical form. And some cool more stuff recently, Sakura's partner in the karate class, and his family is part of Weekend, which is led by George's supposedly dead father. And there's an interesting bit where talking about his parents are dead, and he's happy that Iki still has his parents, and it's interesting that leads into more recent stuff with Vale, is that the dad was basically a guinea pig, and Vale basically tried to destroy his family before Daiji and Sakura were born. And that's when Vice showed up for the first time and basically Kind of reminds me in Frozen how Anna gets her white strand of hair. Basically, since kind of like how the trolls kind of erase / change the memories. And also Hero Dies basically falling off a cliff. We still get some time with Hirami with the mystery. And things. I've been meaning to watch Double. Definitely, that's probably one of the next series I want to watch. But there's a lot of interesting horror gags in the film. I probably can't. Though I noticed that these are horror gags, but I probably couldn't tell you where they came from off the top of my head. There's one with Revice the TV. I think that's a scary movie one. I have no idea. I'm not in horror, so yeah, if you know what I'm talking about, drop that in the comments. And seriously, I really think that's kind of like a cool like mashup form of the various monster types that they're using for like collecting for the equivalent of the Vice stamps. I was thinking about maybe the ideas presented by the Vice stamps with the monsters might play into some of the Kazari Senior's motives for going off grid and faking his death and all of that. Also, George Frank going over there with the writers is it's kind of nice seeing that, even though I have no connection to Double. And they basically pick, in my opinion, they picked the two ugliest people from Gaim to bring back. It's kind of like one of them looks like a geek, and the other one looks like a drag queen. So I'm not sure what their thing is. Like, are they gay? Are we thinking they're gay? Or because I'd be fine not seeing their faces ever again. And basically with the dad being a lab rat, because he has a bit of Gifu's DNA in him, which means that he passes it on to his kids, which allows the kids to attention. That's basically the explanation of that. So again, I really kind of think about connecting the mystery spinoff back into the main series. Like, I'm probably more interested in Kazikare's dad, and we all kind of know that there's probably going to be something with a Super Kamen Rider that George is working on. That's probably going to play into the end game, but it's like, and then you also have the superior of Phoenix, like who is Hirami Superior, having created the Deadmans in the first place. So it's like, still like we don't know who is, still pretty far away from clearly seeing who's going to be the final boss. Is going to be more like a traditional like villain like Alteka, or is it going to be George, or is it going to be kind of like the idea with George is that he has a super color idea, but things kind of like in the Guinea Pig spy movie G-Force, where supposed bad guy of Leonard Saber with his appliances going rogue, but that was the mole. Yeah, it's kind of the thing is that the mole is the cause of all the chaos. So it's basically he's trying to build something good, but then the Super Kamen Rider things get out of hand, and he ends up being punished for that, even though he never wanted such, he never planned for such a thing to happen, which kind of probably falls more like an AI principle, kind of like 0-1. which some people might like, some people might not like, but that is just what I see. No, I still just say about Encanto is that I like Luisa's song probably a bit better than Don't Talk About Revice. Probably closer. They're probably a lot closer together than like Frozen Heart, and to me, than Frozen Heart over Let It Go. I would even take Love Is an Open Door over Let It Go. And, you know, maybe do my Bell Stone as well. No, I have nothing else to say. Just a quick, short episode. Just a quick check-in from Spain over here. As it says here, tentative next episode, May 25th. So by the time I get back, I should hopefully be I'm probably gonna watch some of the Z Plus stuff. Hopefully, if I have time. But right now it's like midterms, and get back into Dawn Brothers, Dawn Fairy Season 1. Because it's gonna be right between after I get back, and then dad one of the kids in my troop, and a girl in my graduating class died recently, so I think they're going to do an event after I get back. But fundraise for something that he was probably pointing to, like my stepbrother Dan's gonna run, my dad and stepmom are gonna walk. And I'm probably still a little dazed from probably jet lag, but still, one a little easier. So I probably don't know if I'll partake in in that regard, maybe assist in some way, volunteer. But then I really would like to do a Virginia trip after that. But in the meantime, next weekend I'll be going to Toledo and a day trip to Parque de Atracciones de Zaragoza. And then I'll probably go back to Parque one weekend after that. But that's a long story. If you want to know the issues I've had with Parques Reunidos, be sure to check out the first 11 episodes of Beyond the Border over on the History and Leisure channel. And also I do now a spin-off History and Leisure called History and Leisure 2, where I post copyright-free footage. Mostly going to be Metro stuff, so, rail fanning. But I'm probably going to do some more transit videos over there as well. Like, I was, working now just recently on, my ideas for lines 13 and 14 and maybe a few other extensions that are not currently in the works or, not highly likely. I'll talk more about that over on the channel at that when it comes to time. So, without further ado, until next time, comment, like, subscribe, strike the bell. Lindsay TVFilm Podcast. Instagram, Lindsay TVFilm. Twitter, @_leisure. Comment, like, subscribe, and strike the bell.